Welcome to the Crazy Chicken People podcast. If you're crazy about chickens, then you're in the right place. Over the long holiday weekend, I got to welcome 9 new silky chicks to the farm that were hatched by one of our cutest and friendliest hens in the flock. It's been super fun getting to watch those babies run around and start learning to be chickens, and if you follow the show on Instagram, you might have seen a couple short videos that I shared of them as they were getting accustomed to life in the chicken run. The mamas were happy too. This was the most successful hatch we'd seen so far, just in terms of number of chicks born, but it didn't come without some complications. Nothing too bad this time, not at all like the last hatch I told you about, but we did have to help a couple of those little babies deal with splay leg, which is a fairly common issue with new chicks. So today, I'm going to share with you some of the hurdles they faced and how we managed to get them literally back on their feet. It started early last Saturday morning when I made my way down to the chicken yard to get some quiet time in before getting started on chores. I knew the day was going to be packed with a lot of yard work and less time around the barn than I'd like. So I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to just hang out down there a little bit, relax while I had some coffee, and see if those babies we were expecting had hatched yet. I poked my head into the coop for just a moment. I didn't hear any chirping or see any fluff balls running around, so I figured it wasn't time yet, and I went to visit the other coops, top off some water and feed buckets, just make sure everyone was doing good, and then I got started on the work ahead of me. It was just a couple hours later that the family had come down and they wanted to check things out for themselves. Everyone was excited to hopefully see some new chicks. I told them that there was nothing to see yet, but they insisted on going in there to check it out for themselves. And wouldn't you know it, they got to see a parade of baby chicks coming out of the coop, all running around in a frenzy, trying to stick close to mama. I guess they must have been sleeping when I had checked on them, probably still resting up from hatching, which must have just happened overnight. We had actually just checked them the evening before, and it didn't seem like anything had pipped yet, at least not that we could tell. So while we were watching them all run around, I took that chance to go and check the nest and just see if anyone had got left behind. And sure enough, there was 2 little chicks in there, trying their best to get up on their feet, but struggling to do anything more than just kind of nudging themselves around on their belly. And you could tell just seeing them struggle the way they were that they had been born with splay leg. If you've never seen this before, it's a condition that chicks are sometimes born with where they just don't have the ability to get their legs and their feet underneath them to be able to stand upright. There's a few things that can be the cause of this. It could be problems inside the egg as they were incubating. When there's changes in temperature or the humidity during incubation, problems can develop inside the shell that can turn into little defects like this. If there's any problems with nutrition in the mother chicken, maybe lacking some essential vitamins like zinc or vitamin B, that can also produce chicks that are more prone to being born with splay leg. And chicks born in incubators with a slippery surface might not be able to find their footing. I've seen how in some of the smaller, hobby-type incubators with the plastic floor, they can start slipping and sliding around on there pretty good. And if they're not real strong and have trouble staying upright, that can cause their legs to splay out like that too. Having something on the floor of the incubator can really help them out. Something like a rubber shelf liner or even just a paper towel. Those blue shop paper towels actually work really good in there for that. You can even use those on the floor of a brooder for new chicks, and they really work well those first couple of days. You're just trying to give them a good surface that they can really get their footing on. It's also possible for a chick to develop this condition even after being born totally fine. Continuing to live on a slippery surface can be really hard on them. Or sometimes you get a chick that's like a little runt, and they can sometimes get trampled or squished, and they can end up like this even days after hatching. It's just something that you really want to keep an eye out for. But fortunately, splay leg can be treated pretty easily at home. And if you get to it early, the chances of them getting fully healed up are much better. Now, there can be really bad cases where the ligaments or the joints just didn't develop right, and that's usually not something you'd be able to fix. And we weren't able to get to these little guys as soon as we would have liked. They had probably been laying there like that for a while, and they were lucky that they didn't just get smothered or trampled by the rest of the chicks when they were all huddled up. So we pulled those little guys out of there. They were super weak, and they felt really cold. You could tell that their time so far had been pretty rough on them, and they probably wouldn't have made it much longer trying to survive in the nest. So we took them into the barn where there was a brooder pretty much already set up. I just had to get some heat in there. And we gave them a little bit of time to rest and warm up under that heat lamp. I did give them a tiny little bit of water that I had mixed some poultry vitamins into, just trying to help them get a little bit of strength. And then we started gathering up what we needed while they were resting. Typically, when you've got a chick that's got splay leg, you want to try to get them cared for as soon as possible. The longer they're like that, the worse it can get, and the harder it is to help them heal. If you're hatching in an incubator, that means getting those little struggling chicks out of there as soon as you can do it safely and getting them into your chicken emergency room. With these two, though, it had already been a while of them laying in that position, which wasn't good. And I kind of thought they were going to have a hard time surviving, splay leg or not. It just seemed like they had had it too rough those first few hours. They really looked like they were in bad shape when I picked them up. But we wanted to do our best to give them the best shot that we could. So once they warmed up and got a little water in them, we started getting ready to fix them up. My go-to fix for this, a rubber band and a piece of a drinking straw. And what we're trying to do is get those little legs pulled closer together with the rubber band, and ideally, using that short piece of straw to create a little brace in between their legs. This is also referred to as hobbling a chick. You want to get their legs spaced out under them as they normally would be so that they can start to put some weight on them and get those muscles and ligaments in the correct position. If you can find a rubber band that's really small and loosely opens up to about the right spread, it's about an inch or so, that makes it a lot easier. Now, we could only find any that were about twice as big as we needed, but we were able to tie a knot in them and get it down to the right size. Now, before you get started on this, I would definitely suggest getting someone to help you out. Holding that little chick gently enough to not hurt it while also getting the rubber band looped around each foot can be tough and frustrating. And silkies have that extra toe, which makes it just a little bit more challenging. So you've got your rubber band. Now you need a piece of that drinking straw cut just a little bit shorter than you want their legs apart. Slip part of the rubber band through and pull it out the other side. And this should leave you with a small loop at each end. You need to open up that loop enough to get their foot through it. Now this is where having another person holding that chick really helps out. While one person stretches out the loop of the rubber band and slips it over their foot, the other person can hold that chick still. And you can do this without the straw too. Just tie a little loop at each end of the band for their feet to go through. I do think that the straw helps, but some chicks may not be that bad off to even really need it. And if you don't have a rubber band around, you can use a piece of string or yarn. I've seen that elastic bandage tape. Just about anything that you can use to keep their legs where they're supposed to be without restricting their movement too much. Now, there's another method I've seen where you use a shot glass or something about that size. You just put the chick in there feet first, and that's supposed to help them keep their legs closer together, hoping that they kind of start to heal in that position. I mean, it must work, at least to some extent, but I don't love the idea of them not being able to walk or try to stand so they can get their strength built up. They can't make it to food or water, or even lay down when they fall asleep, as brand new little chicks tend to do a lot. But if you're in a pinch, maybe you do this until you're able to get them fixed up a little better. I mean, it's probably better than nothing. Okay, so once you've got that chick all hobbled up, that should be about all there is to it. How long that crutch actually stays in place probably comes down to how bad off they were and how early you caught it. I've fixed up a little quail chick that recovered in about a day, but it could take a few days or even a couple of weeks to get them fully healed. And if it does take a while, You might have to make an adjustment to that splint if it looks like they're growing out of it. For our two little crippled chicks, as of the day that I'm recording this, they've been wearing that brace for 3 full days now. I see them hop up and scurry around whenever I walk into the barn to check on them. They're getting up to get their own food and water. I've seen them even hop up on a little piece of branch that's in there, so I think that they healed up really well. I might try taking that brace off tonight just to see if they can get around on their own and start getting that full range of motion back. And I'm sure they're not comfortable being bound up the way they are, but I don't think I'm going to be able to put them back with their brothers and sisters. I'd like to, but it kind of seems like the others have just passed them up. I'm not sure they'd be able to keep up with the group or even know that they need to sleep under Mama after spending a few days in the brooder. But I do feel bad for them in there, just the two of them getting kind of lonely. I might have to pick up another chick or two to put in there with them, just so they have another friend. We'll see. I'd like to at least give them a shot at rejoining their flock. If I get those braces off them tonight and they seem like they can move around okay, I might try slipping them in with the group and see if anyone notices, or if the mother hen rejects them or is willing to take them in. I've never tried to do this before, so I'm not exactly sure how that'll go, but I'll definitely let you guys know. And then real quick, I wanted to mention the vitamins that I had given them in their water. It's a product called Poultry Cell by the brand Rooster Booster. I started adding this to all my chickens' water about a month ago. I was talking to the breeder that I had gotten those bantam chicks from, and she had suggested using it at minimum for my silkies. Silkies are prone to suffer from deficiencies in B vitamins as well as a few others. Now, I don't know why this is. I can only imagine it had something to do with the way they were bred way back when. But it does seem true since they are kind of one of the more fragile breeds. So I mix this into their water, and I've been doing it with all my chickens, really. Sometimes I'll give just fresh water and mix things up a little bit, but everything I read about this stuff leads me to believe that it's good for all of them. And it provides a little extra of the things that all chickens need anyways. If you do have silkies, I think it's at least worth your time to read up on it a little bit and see if it's right for you. Okay, one last thing, and I need to ask you guys a favor. I just got the podcast posted up to the YouTube music site. I guess they're trying their own version of like Spotify and Amazon Music platforms, and they're supporting podcasts now. If you could check out the page, maybe give me a follow, a like, comment, any of those things, I'd really appreciate it. Little things like that really help a small channel get some traction. I'll share a link to it in the show notes. Would just be really grateful if you could check it out. Okay, that's all I got for this week. As always, thank you so much for listening. I genuinely do appreciate it. I hope that you and your chickens are having a great week, and I'll talk to you again soon.